Odds are stacked up against you, but you can win.
Win anyway.
Keep your eyes on the prize, 'cause you can win.
Win anyway.
You've got too much to live for. Win anyway.
Win anyway.
This is only one chapter in your book. Keep reading, keep praying, keep
Win
healing.
anyway.
Purpose is calling you. Wake up, wake up, wake up. People are in your corner that you haven't met yet. Dreams, visions that you haven't unlocked yet. Hey, resources, relationships, revenue, it's just around the corner. Let's go, let's go. If you in the gym, win anyway. If you in your car, win anyway. If you at home, win anyway. Let's go.
Woo!
God is
graduating my faith to
God
trust.
is
Graduating my faith to
God
trust.
is
Graduating my faith to trust.
trust you,
I'll
Lord.
trust you
Trust
in the
you,
middle
Lord.
of this whole
Trust you, Lord.
way.
Trust you, Lord. Trust you, Lord. I 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 trust you, Lord.
I have no other choice. I have no other choice. I have no other choice but to trust you, God. I have no other choice. I have no other choice. I have no other choice but to trust you, God.
You fought too
I have
hard.
no other choice. I have no other
You
choice.
made it this
I have no
far.
other choice but to trust you, God.
You can't give
I
up
have no other choice.
now.
I have no other choice.
You can't give
I
up
have no other choice but
now.
to trust you, God.
Come on, come on. Listen, you can make it. You can do this. You are on the right side. I'll
I have
trust
no
you,
other
Lord.
choice.
I'll
I have
trust
no
you,
other
Lord.
choice.
I'll
I have
trust
no
you,
other
Lord.
choice but to
I'll trust you,
God.
Lord.
I have no other choice. I have no other choice. I have no other choice but to trust you, God.
Yeah. Yes. All right. We are here. And I have been waiting to talk to this young brother all this time. Uh I Okay, so y'all know him because there hasn't been a book that I've published in the last 5 years that I don't mention him in one chapter or the next chapter. He is the man that changed my life. Full stop. He is the man that changed my life. His mentorship changed my life. He married me and Anna. He was my pastor when I was at Duke. He is my sparring buddy. I know that this gift that I am about to introduce to y'all was God sent to me. And I'm just so excited to present him to y'all and introduce him to others. My man, Dr. Maurice Wallace.
Hey, everybody. So glad to be here. Appreciate the invitation,
Yeah.
Shaun. I'm Maurice. I'm Pastor Maurice. Yeah, I'm a friend. Um, love God, love the God in you. And am really, really happy for you, and for everyone who has made up his or her mind tonight to win anyway. It's a process. It's a process. Um, but I'm hoping that after tonight, and of course, in sort of the context of this entire tour with all of the other conversations you've had, that your listeners, your friends, your supporters, your prayer partners will all graduate to trust God even more. So, congratulations on all of this. I'm flattered to have been invited to talk to you about this latest installment in a series of books that you have and shall write. Probably just the middle. I don't know what number this is for you, 5, 6. There's
10,
probably
10.
10. It's
Yeah,
probably
yeah.
that many more to go. And yeah, I will look forward to the day of seeing them all bound and in volumes on somebody's library bookshelves. So great. I do want to say one thing. You introduced me in some really flattering terms, especially as the man who changed your life. I appreciate saying that, but I want to make it clear that my call is to change minds, and changed minds change lives. So you changed your life with the help of God. I hope I helped to change your mind. And maybe that's what people need to hear, right? That if we're going to win anyway, we got to change our minds about some things. Our whole disposition has to change. And in fact, we might as well start there if you don't mind. Can we get into? Okay, let's do this then.
I want to hear you talk.
Well, my aim tonight is not to hear me talk so much as to talk to you, to talk with you. Let's go
Yeah,
back and
yeah.
forth. You know how we do it.
Yeah, I know.
And I hope we don't lose nobody on the way, because
Let's
when we go, we go.
yeah.
Y'all pray for us. And if we go too far, stop us. Somebody stop us. I'm interested in both words in that main title, like winning as opposed to what do you think the reflex is that keeps us from understanding our lives as already winning? And then it's the anyway, right? So let me tell you how I hear it. One possible way of hearing it, and I'd just love to hear your response to it. I see the subtitle, How to Turn Your Obstacles into Opportunities. And maybe, winning is opposed to resignation because somebody thinks his or her obstacles are too big, and this is just the life, this is just the hand that life has dealt me. But I also hear this, that we are probably closer to winning than we think, but we often talk ourselves out of it. And your title tells me to win anyway, because sometimes our fear is not losing, our fear is winning. What if we win? What are the responsibilities? What are the expectations? What if I fulfill my potential? then I got to keep doing it. And I don't have any excuses. Win anyway. Like, it's almost as if we are poised to win. Many people on this call tonight probably already know that they are winners, but they've chosen to lose. Some people are winners who choose to lose because they're afraid of expectations, they're afraid of responsibility. And what you are telling us all, the gifted folk, you know who you are. What you are telling some of us is win anyway.
Wow.
Win anyway. You've already achieved some things. Win anyway. I don't know. What do you think about that reading?
You are a pastor when you just wake up in the morning. Like, that reading of my title makes sense to me because I have a fear of heights. I can stay low because my upbringing taught me low. My mother taught me low. My grounding taught me low. There is a fear of heights in the natural sense and in the spiritual sense. And I think that most of us have the capacity to win on our level and beyond, but we're not equipped to maintain that win. But your reading of my title says, even though you're scared, win anyway. Even though you think someone is more capable, win anyway. Even though it's a great responsibility, win anyway. And that equips me, that energizes me, that inspires me because everything that I need, God has already supplied. And they're going to partner with me to win anyway. And so I know you have a list of questions, but that is what I think God was doing when he conspired our lives to meet when I was at Duke. I think I was an answered prayer for you, and you were an answered prayer for me. And all I had to do was listen to God and drown out all the fear and all of the noise that said, he's too smart. I'm not. He's too accomplished. What does he want with me? And we have been each other's, I don't know, I've been trying to be the answer to your question in the season that you needed it. And so I think there's one point that I want to highlight now because I'm thinking about it. And I think that this is for someone here tonight or for someone that's watching this replay. You said to me, and I don't even think you remember it. You said to me when I was devastated that I was rejected from Duke. I called your office. You were in the office, and you said something that I will never, ever, ever forget. I've put it in my book. You said, perhaps God told you no because you were asking too low. I will never forget that in my life. You said, in the face of rejection, okay? And Duke is not some rinky dink school. So I'm like, how much higher are you expecting me to go? Because this is high. And so you said, perhaps God told you no because you were asking too low. And I just want to pause And that word of advice has kept me in every season, even now. Perhaps God told me no because I'm asking too low. And that applies to what you read as the title, the fear of heights, the fear of the unknowable, the fear of the supreme, the fear of people watching you and staring at you and being the model for other people. That is a weight that many don't want to carry, but win anyway.
Yeah, win anyway. I mean, I know that I have an understanding of the title in that way because I'm afraid of heights. I'm afraid of heights, right? Um, I don't even like for people to introduce me as Dr. Wallace. That's a height that, sometimes I worry. I don't, do I, am I, should I, can I, So I understand that under that interpretation of the title because it's intimate to me, right? The funny thing is this. When I moved to New Jersey a few years ago, the apartment I found, the only thing I disliked about this apartment, it was on floor 15 of a 15-story building.
Mm-hmm.
A couple years later, I had to move out of that apartment. The next apartment I found wasn't on the 14th floor, it was on the 28th floor. And the only way I could manage to persuade myself to move to the 28th floor, twice as high as I was, even though I was already afraid of heights. One day in the apartment on the 14th and 15th floor, I found ants. Now, it wasn't the fear of ants, and it wasn't even the infestation of ants. It was trying to figure out, how did an ant climb 14 and 15 stories to get to this apartment? And it became clear to me, if an ant
I'm about to run.
can get this high, then surely, if an ant is unafraid, then surely, God is able
Wow.
at floor 28. And I think the problem is that we think of ourselves as ants and not giants. Ants and not giants. So I wonder if we changed our minds. And this is hard work. This is not something I have figured out. I still wrestle with it. But your book, I look at it, and when I would say, okay, God, this is high enough, your book says, win anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Go higher. Probably the reason that most folks watching tonight don't know me already is because I'm afraid of heights. They know me by way of your book, but that's because you catapulted me, not because I catapulted myself. And so I'm just talking to the people who aim low because it's comfortable, because it's safe. I will tell you that there have been a few people in my life who have inspired me to aim higher, and probably the the most effective one, the most important one is my wife,
Oh my God.
because she don't know what low is. And to keep up, I got to go higher. And I'm just thankful that God has given me the capacity to go higher. She is driven, she is ambitious, and it's not because she's after anything but the realization of her skills and her gifts, because she can. Because she can. So, this is a nice segue into a second question I have for you about this title. And you know me, everybody, y'all should know that I love words, I love language. I can hang out here for the next 2 hours, but I know we got to move on. I want to ask you, given what we've just said, can we talk about what winning feels like then?
Yes. I love this question, because at every section of my life, winning felt different, because I was different. But now that I have lived a little longer, now that I have experienced a little more life, um, winning feels like peace in my soul. Winning feels like peace in my soul, because my surroundings may be shaken. My emotions may be here today and there tomorrow. My finances may be shaken. My relationships may be good today and bad tomorrow. My health may be that, and my accomplishments, that depends on which group you are in and which team you are on. But the peace that I have in my soul, knowing that I am where God needs me to be right now, this hour, with this conversation. I've traveled the world. I have seen things that I know people would want to see. I've been a part of some really great schools. I've had my company now for 15 years. I have sat in boardrooms and um, large churches, and I've consulted with superstars. But when I get home on my couch and I only am in one room, there's a peace that is in my soul that nothing can take away. And I want that for everyone. Be the best version that you can be. Be ambitious, go after the gold medal. But if you don't have peace in your soul, there is not a house that you can buy that will supply. There's not a relationship that you can get. There's not a mate that you can get. There are not enough zeros that you can acquire with your job that will relegate or that will compensate for the peace in your soul. There are, you know this, millionaires that take their own lives because I think they're chasing after something that only God can supply. And if you are not a Christian, that's cool if you're watching this. But my peace in my soul is a spiritual peace. Um, and that peace leads to freedom. That peace leads to joy, unbridled joy. and that peace leads to love. So that's winning for me.
You know it. I really appreciate the candor and the sense of calm and self awareness, if not also self acceptance, that comes with your understanding of winning. I love how your expression of winning does not include comparison to someone else's race. I suspect that most often when we hear the language of winning, we are tempted to think about how we compare to the person alongside us.
Yeah.
And I just mentioned how inspiring my wife has been for me professionally and vocationally. Um, and she has been, but I have to admit that in the most difficult times of our relationship, we have both lost trying to compete with one another. And I think we both discovered at some point that the race isn't between the two of us. If there is a competition at all, the competition is between me today and me yesterday. It's a race between me tomorrow and me today. And if I can continually improve, if I can be better today somehow than I was yesterday, then I am winning. Um, and I was just imagining, a race. I'm a track and field athlete and fan, as were you. Like, sometimes you don't know whether you're winning. If you're competing against other people, because the turn is misleading. All right. This is how we do it. I'm sorry. Let me,
No,
Fran, this is
no,
how.
no, no, you're right there. You're right there. Uh-uh.
I'm just saying that it's important that we frame winning well, so that people know that at no point did I ever try to compete with Shaun. Shaun's got gifts that are out of this world. And even if I thought I had a little of what he has a lot of, it never dawned on me to compete with him. And I knew if I compete with him, I would and my ministry would lose him and lose the gifts that he brought. So I'm thankful that I learned at some point in my life, or was convinced, to recognize, the significance of the little bit I do have, and learn to be comfortable with it. It's not easy because what's easy is to compete with other people because you can see how you're doing. When you're competing with only yourself, you got to talk to yourself a lot, confer with yourself a lot, be with yourself a lot. What if you don't even like yourself? It's hard to confer with yourself. So I want to say precisely what your Your title says, I want to encourage everyone to win anyway. And that peace is more valuable than promotion. That peace is everything. Um, and I suppose it's also like a wave. You ride it as long as you can, you enjoy it as long as you can. Um, I think the trick is not to worry if the shore is coming. It's to be in the moment, to ride the wave and enjoy it, rather than fear what's behind you or what's ahead of you. So let me all of this I should say to all your listeners that when I get inspired, moved, when I feel something, I get real chatty. So y'all forgive me if I am sounding kind of chatty. Has been to me. So let me go to another question. And I'm sure you've been asked this question. I'm gonna ask a couple of questions. I'm sure you've been asked this a zillion times. I both want to hear you for the sake of those who haven't been able to tune into previous book tour conversations. I want to ask you to articulate even more specifically who this book is written for. In other words, if you could gift wrap 100 copies of your book and send them to the 100 people you thought would benefit most, what kind of people would you send your book to? What's the profile of the person? I mean, age, I mean, experience, education, I mean, location, ambition, just the general profile, and as much as you can see it. Who would you love to know had a copy of this book?
I am full right now. Um, you are the best kept secret of my life because you do this every single time we talk, and you do this when you text me. So, like, everybody that views this, y'all can see where my wisdom comes from because God has equipped me with such wise counsel. Um, my dedication page, to Mama and Dada, and to every little boy that felt like he wasn't enough. When anyway, when I sat down to write this book, I had an audience. I had black and brown brothers. That was my audience. I don't know what I've accomplished that could inspire, but I know I've accomplished a little bit. And the little that I've had, I want to give to the world while I'm in the hallway, while I'm still learning, while I'm still a student. But when I look back over my life, there's been wins even in the hallway. Um, and I wanted to inspire black and brown boys um, that did not have the easy route. They had some challenges, they had some disabilities, they had some uniqueness. Um, their grade level or their criminal record, or they were born on the wrong side of the tracks. When I got the title, I was invited to Job Corps about 5 years ago. And the deacon that invited me, he was a longtime friend of the family. And he said, if you have a book to give the students, we'll buy all of the books. I had no book because prior to this, and I've written 10 books, but prior to this one, all of my books were too preachy. All of my books were too churchanese. All of my books were too sermony, and none of them could reach the audience that I felt like this book was supposed to help. Um, and if I could gift wrap um, 20 copies or 1,000 copies, I would ship some to the jails. I would ship some to the nursing homes, not just the patients in the nursing homes, the people that are in the kitchen, the people that are in the nurses, but I want to inspire the janitors. If I could just wish that I could, you know, bequeath my book, I would go to every single rehab center. Um, and I would like every stroke survivor to win anyway. Um, so my audience in particular were Black and brown boys. Um, Black and brown boys that did not have a father the way traditional families have a father. Um, Black and brown boys that are religious but hurting. Um, Black and brown boys that are gifted and they hide behind their gift all of their pain. Um, because one day the gift stops working and you have to confront that pain. Um, and so that's who I was writing for.
I think that is such an important reply because most often book buyers buy books because they believe those books will serve them. This title, Win Anyway, How to Turn Your Obstacles into Opportunities, is so appealing. Who wouldn't want to know how to do that? But what you have suggested is that book buyers may need to be something like postmen and postwomen who pick up the book but deliver it elsewhere. Um, and I hope that people who are listening as you spoke remembered someone whose profile you just outlined and will make it a point to be as concerned for the improvement of that person as we tend to be for ourselves. So let me encourage everyone who is listening, if you can identify one or two people you think fit that profile, you should make it a point to be a blessed post person for the one who's reading. And the beautiful thing about this book is that it is altogether accessible. And I think it will make a difference in people's lives, especially those who Shaun just described. I just want to offer two words that I think, and I won't comment much on the two words, but two words that came to mind when you were talking, Shaun. Two virtues that I think your book may help to restore in those who may feel lost or lacking. The two words are dignity and self respect. Dignity and self respect. If you lose your dignity, your sense of sacred worth, you will not only expect others to mistreat you, you'll mistreat yourself. And so my prayer is that winning will restore, will reset all readers back to factory settings with dignity and self-respect. And that's what leads to the peace that you've described. Things. What did writing this book do for you?
Writing it was therapy. So when you have two strokes and you're not even 40 years old yet, when you've had the things that I've had happen to me, um, you look at time differently. And I want to walk my daughter down the aisle. I want to be here until I'm 100 years old. Um, but just in case I'm not, let me leave something in the earth that will mark me and be a roadmap for my daughter if I'm not here to tell her where to go. When I wrote every chapter, I was looking at my life and I said, I have experienced miracle after miracle after miracle. There's just so many miracles that have happened to me. I need something to house all of my miracles. So if I'm not here to tell them, this book will tell them for me. Um, and you may not be a book writer. You may be a storyteller in the visual sense, or you may be a singer, or you may be a preacher, or you may be an artist. But I want to let you know that you need to leave something in the earth that says you were here, so that when people like me want to find a roadmap, we can go to your work. And so when I looked at my life, um, the chapters were effortless because I didn't have to make up anything. All I had to do was just pick up a journal. All I had to do was just pick up an email. All I had to do was just pick up another book that I had previously written. Um, so the conception of the book was a breeze. The writing of the book, that was the struggle because, and people may not know this, especially if you're tuning in for the first time, I had a stroke last year. So last year, this time, I was fighting for my life. I couldn't read. In fact, when I was in rehab, I thought this will be good. I can just take a few books. I could not read one page of those books. My brain needed time to heal. My heart needed time to heal. Everything was blurry. And so while I wanted to read, I could not. While I wanted to write, I could not. And what that taught me was I knew I wanted to finish this book, but I had to stay humble. I had to hire the folks that edit in my company for the world. I had to hire them to write my last chapter because I could orate, but I couldn't write. And so, what was it like doing this book? It was full circle. In fact, your wife and you sowed the largest seed into my publication company. When my publication company first started in my dorm room at Duke, y'all's seed furnished the furniture that the world is blessed by today. And so it was a full circle moment. I've written now 300 books for other people. I never thought when I was getting the paperwork together for my company that there would become a day that I would need the services that I was supposed to deliver to the world. I never thought that.
Wow, that's a moving, compelling testimony. Um, your sort of acknowledgement of the seed we planted in your company is these this many years later the first mention that I can recall of that, and to know that we helped as significantly as we did at the ground level is one more reason why I want to encourage everyone to think about somebody else here, because this book is seed, not just for you. It's, well, it will come back to you, but not in the direct way that we are accustomed to, right?
Mhm.
It's for you and the world. So my prayer is that you will plant this seed in someone else, and watch it flourish. That's what we've done. We've watched you flourish and watched you move from the ground floor to the fifth floor to the 10th floor. Now, every book is a floor. You're on floor 10. And as you were talking, it struck me that the genre that you described, the book that holds the history of all of the miracles that have happened for and to you, seems to me like chronicles. Like, that's what you want this book to be, is a chronicle, a collection of the God encounters that will ultimately live past you and help somebody else. What's wrong? What's wrong? So, but the other thing I was gonna say is, you your first reflex when you replied was to bring up Zanai, and I have to admit that when I got to chapter 5, at the end of chapter 5, I was ready to close the whole book. Like, it's done. This was a remarkable gift for Zanai. Right? Just the way you described it. I want Zanai to have a roadmap. 10 years from now, 20 years from now, 30 years from now, this book will be a gift to Zanai that keeps on giving. It will be a gift to everyone, but no one will be able to treasure it quite the way that Zanai will. And that's the thing that was most remarkable to me. At the end of chapter 5, I thought, what a gift. Put a bow on it. I don't know what's left to say in the remaining chapters. How do you move past this? If you had finished there, it would have been remarkable enough. It would have fulfilled at least one core objective, and that is to provide Zanai with a testament of her daddy's love. Don't we all want that? Don't we all want that? Oh my God. And I was a little convicted when I got to the end of that chapter, because I started to wonder, have I given my daughters enough of me yet? Because I want them to have something too. If not a book, I want them to have a piece of my heart in the way that you gave to Zanai in this book. And I won't even begin to talk about what it means for a little girl to say, Daddy, I'm going to protect you. That was too much. That was too much. And I've met Zanai, and she's not playing. She's not playing. I want to double back though, because I want to read a few passages. I want to come back to Zanai, but I want to, before we get too far ahead, I want to go to the chapters. This chapter 2. It doesn't matter how you start; it matters how you finish.
Yeah.
Yeah. And your conversation there on page 14 about Ms. Maldonado. And I want to highlight something that struck me as really powerful. In the middle of the page, you say about Ms. Maldonado, I still don't know what she saw in me that inspired her to use her days off to travel with me to Princeton and UPenn. I'll talk about this in more detail later, but even though Ms. Maldonado took me to those schools, and even though Mrs. Aponte encouraged me to see myself beyond Kane University, I ended up being rejected by both Ivy League schools. Nevertheless, my mentors have paved the path for me to see what I couldn't see in myself. Now, I started reading and ended with the same phrase. What I couldn't see for myself. I started with, I still don't know what she saw in me. I ended with, I couldn't yet see in myself. And I'm really struck by how important it is to trust others' vision, not their vision for you, but what gifts and aptitudes they see in you. Because we can't always see or appreciate, because we wake up with it every day. We live with it every day. It seems unremarkable to us, whatever this thing is. And yet there are people around us who see something in us and call it out as special. And I guess what I'm wanting to say is we have to trust not people's prescriptions for what our lives look like, but trust that what people see as a unique capacity, a special aptitude, a gift, is there for our cultivating. And so every time you write a new book, forget Penn, forget Princeton, every time you write a new book, you have confirmed what Ms. Maldonado saw in you so many years ago. And even if she doesn't get to read all of them, can you imagine the pride that she has in being the one who... This is what I love about teaching. This really is what I love about teaching. I teach at Rutgers. Like you, I've taught at some pretty nice institutions, but I love my job at Rutgers more than any other position I have had because it's the institution I get to talk to students who haven't, some of them have been, but some of them haven't been told that they're gifted. And they show up in my class and I recognize something and I get to be the one to say to them for the first time, you know you have something extraordinary? And they're surprised. And then I get to confirm it. And then I get to make it kind of public, at least in the context of the class. And I see them flower. And I love that. As a teacher, that's when I win. That's when I win. I get the opportunity to seed and water. And in the course of 4 years, see somebody flower. I still see it in you. I love that you're on floor 10, but there are at least 20 more floors to go. And I see it. I am Ms. Maldonado for this season, and someone will come after me and will be Ms. Maldonado for the next one. And I'm so proud of what you've accomplished. Don't get me wrong. And I know that Ms. Maldonado saw something. You know, Ms. Maldonado saw something in you in junior high or high school, the same way that Ms. Gone saw it in me, Ms. Jones saw it in me. We all need somebody to see it in us. Because if they don't say it, I don't believe it. If they don't say it, it doesn't seem extraordinary to me. So, if there's another encouragement here, man, if you see it, say it. If you see it, say it. Because there's a Zanai that needs to hear that she's got something extraordinary. Now, yours and I, she won't have any trouble believing it. She won't. And I love it. I love it. I want to be Zanai. But there are some others who go to school with Zanai, who have everything she has except the affirmation. And, this is easier said than done. I've got 2 adult children now. I remember the challenging years. But I had to learn to resist the temptation to chastise more than affirm. We can get really frustrated as parents. We can lose our patience. But if we don't affirm our children, if we don't affirm them, they won't be any better off than we are. And our prayer has been, Lord, I want my children to be better off than I am. That's what we say we're working for. so our children can be better off. But if you don't affirm them, if you don't see it in them and affirm them, I know it's difficult. I know it's challenging. Yes, are you gonna bite your tongue, grit your teeth sometime, walk off, go to the other room? But if I'm gonna preach a sermon today, it's that one. It's that one. So I appreciate so much what you've written, not only about Zanai, but I appreciate your remembering Ms. Maldonado, right? And I love that you have us remember our own Ms. Maldonado at the end of the chapter, right? Um, Maybe we haven't taken seriously enough all of those Old Testament encouragements to remember and to tell our children. That's what he told Israel. Remember and tell your children. That's what this is. It's a chronicle of memories that you tell Zanai. Um, yeah, I see it, and I want others to see it, and I want to practice seeing it in others. Because again, I have no doubt that whatever accomplishments I have had are owed to people who saw something in me I didn't see myself, and who today will call out some things in me that I don't see. But for somebody listening, yeah, it might be, if there's a positive affirmation you get from somebody else, trust it. If you don't see it, still trust them for it. And move in that direction. It's probably the case that God has led them toward you to show you exactly what you can't see in yourself because it's too close. But trust it. But trust it. So interrupt me here. Interrupt me here. Tell me about Ms. Maldonado, what you remember.
She just texted me today that she ordered the book. And she texted me today that she ordered the book. She's busy. Her husband's a cop. And she texted me today so that I could send it tomorrow because she's going on a cruise Saturday. She just texted today. I don't speak to Miss Maldonado. I speak to her like twice a year. And it just, she is the reason why I want to be a teacher. She not only taught math, and you can get with me here, I only took her class because she was fine. Like, I don't even like math. I took her every single grade that I was in high school because she was fine. Um, and but it was her extension. I was the student that needed that attention. Um, and then the crazy thing, I don't even know if I wrote this in the book, but she saw something in me. You know, I'm a performer. Um, so if I wasn't a teacher, I would be a Broadway actor. She saw something in me, and she helped um, us create our step team um, in high school. So I was the captain of this step team. We went to various competitions, and we stepped at the games. This is what I'm trying to say. You need people that will see you for all of you. like you know the one side of me, but you need to know all of me. Um, she was that beacon of hope, and I really need to encourage teachers. I know your I know your job is hard. I know that education doesn't pay well. I know that you have to work around the clock. I know that some of you have to pay for supplies because there's no budget. But if I can be the student that can help you go to work tomorrow, there's one student that you are changing their lives forever. And not their lives, you're changing their children's lives. You're changing the trajectory of their life because you stayed. You came early, you came late, you stayed. I think Miss Maldonado is still teaching, um, because even when we quit, God keeps us back at what He called us to do. Um, and you've been that at the college level. Um, you are that beacon of hope. I just told you this when I came to your house last week. You are the reason that I want to get my PhD because I needed a pastor, but I found it on a campus. In that season, I would have gone crazy if I did not have a you at Duke's campus because when I went to Duke, I was like, "Oh, this is gonna be Sunday school." It was not Sunday school. I was I was struggling, and but you need someone that will ground you and that will take you higher, and that has been my experience. God brings me a teacher when I'm ready. And that was Miss Maldonado for me in high school, and that was you in grad school.
Well, I'm glad you raised um, teachers' challenges. I Part of the reason I teach at the college level is because I don't know how high school teachers do it. I applaud you. I salute you. I thank you. In fact, I want to say this. I'm really not trying to be super spiritual or prophetic in any way. But if there is a high school or junior high school, if there's a teacher who's watching today, watching tonight, and you already know, are already prepared, have already made up your mind that you got to dig into your pocket just to start the school year, contact Shaun. I want to give you something to help. I want to contribute. I want to put something in the pot so that you can get your babies what your babies need. I'm not a rich man, but I want to invest in what you're doing for our children anyway. So if you'll reach out to Shaun, he knows how to contact me, and I'll get something to you by way of Shaun. Let's move on. There are two more things I want to get to in particular. I don't know which order. There are two big topics that may sound unrelated, but I kind of think they're related. One of them is divorce, and the other of them is I'll simply call it evolution. Um, I would love for you just to pick one of those two terms, and you can decide that one or the other requires too much energy tonight. It's getting late and I'm tired. I don't want to deal with that. Let's move to something else. But I appreciate your candor, your transparency, and what or how what most people would assume, not incorrectly, was a devastating episode of life, probably second only to your strokes. How you're able to put that in a new life giving perspective. Um, the other issue, of course, is just how you have evolved since Duke. Um, I don't know, what the increments have been. Do you evolve with every new book? Do you evolve every 4 to 5 years? Or has every setback been an opportunity to evolve, to learn something else and more and new about who you are, about who God is, about what your purpose on the planet is? I don't know. Take one of those topics and run with it.
When you hate yourself, there is no person, there is no degree, there is no calling that you could hide behind to mask or distract you from the work that you need to do with yourself. I was so lonely in my marriage because marriage doesn't cure loneliness. There are people that go to seminary because they're broken and they think that their calling is their healing. If you don't fix the brokenness before you mount that pulpit, then you will preach broken sermons. You will live a broken life. Even if your wife is whole, you have to go to God, you have to go to therapy, and you have to talk to yourself. That's why I decided affirmations at the end of each chapter of this book, because I have a prayer life. I don't have a struggle with talking to God, but I had a struggle with talking to myself about the good that I saw in myself. And so there, I mean, there are two questions, but they stem from the same branch. They stem from the same seed. They stem from the same tree. My marriage failed because I wasn't ready. I needed some time to look in the mirror and to continue to evolve alone so that when I was blessed with someone like an Anna, I could appreciate that and water that seed. But because of the church pressure, because of um, the peer pressure, and because I was so attracted to being normal. I was so caught up in all the wrong things with normalcy and what that looked like in my life. I've always been abnormal. I've always been a left handed man in a right handed world. I've always been too much or too little. And I take full responsibility. I thank God that even in my mess, God gave me a gift called Zanai. I thank God that even now, 20 years later, me and Anna are co parents to our daughter, and we live down the street from each other. I just saw her today, and our friendship is still secure. Um, I thank God that even after divorce, when I had my two hip replacements, it was Anna that was washing my body. She stayed over at my house. Um, and so I want to pivot. This world is really um, tempting you to rush. The social media, the world is just in a hurry. I want you to be friends with your spouse before you are a spouse to them. I want you to cultivate friendship. I don't care if you are married to a woman or married to a man. It's cultivating friendship that will keep you when the going gets tough. Because those butterflies will wear off, but your friendship will be there if you cultivate it. And so, um, in my life, I've just seen God bless me when I just didn't know how to handle that blessing. And so, divorce is painful as death. I think I put in the book, there's like, if you're going through a divorce, it's like you're an amputee because you can walk around, but something is missing. And I've been divorced for quite some time. And that is why I can write about it now. But when I first got divorced, I was in denial. And when Anna published what she was going to say about it, um, that was stinging to me. And then I had to publish what I was going to say about it. It was too early to really heal the way I knew the book needed me to heal. This is so crazy. Your wife taught me, or she counseled me in the 2 years after my divorce. I was writing something in a voice, a note, and I sent it to her. And she said, "This is raw." She said, "And this is great. Don't publish this yet. Wait to get your healing first and then publish it." And I believe that God sends first drafts to us in therapy sessions, in friends that we can share our hearts with and they won't judge you. But everything worth writing isn't worth publishing. Every pain is not a win anyway book. I don't know what this infatuation with social media is, but I think we are treating social media like it's our diary. And that may be something that works for you, but I'm building a legacy for my daughter. And I don't want her to be distracted by the high highs and the low lows without the healing process that all of us need to go through, even if you're not divorced, because you can be in a long relationship with someone and it can feel like divorce. And so now that I am evolved, now that my theology has evolved, my place in this earth has evolved, my reading and writing has evolved, I just think just keep on living because you're going to come to some mountain or valley or hallway season and you're not going to have the right words. You're not going to be able to say the right things. There's going to come a time that will leave you speechless. And so now gratitude is what I reach for first. The humility is what I walk in. And then this day, I want to make an impact. There's a Dr. Berry, everybody knows her if they know me. I met her through the pandemic. Again, Pam. She shared a story from her page, and then I started to watch her. And she said something last year that I will never forget. She said, "Your legacy is not what you leave in the earth when you die. Your legacy is what you leave in the room. Every room that you occupy, your legacy is what you leave in that room." And so that's why I'm taking the time to really season what I'm saying here because I don't know. This may be my last interview. If it was, what would I say differently? If my daughter was watching and nobody else was watching, what would I say differently? How would I honor her mother and still keep it real if my mother was watching? And so I think part of my evolution includes I don't live just for me now. I live for something other than me. And I think when I started to live with that something other than me, I started to be grounded. I started to take seriously my prayers. I started to take seriously what I do when I'm off. I started to take seriously who I hang around. I started to take seriously my heart. I started to take seriously, God, you know me, and this doesn't work for me. So can you help me or I need to change? I started to take seriously the wrestling match that Jacob had with the angel, God, all night. I started to take seriously that in my life. And I said, yo, I'm going to wrestle with you until you bless me. Now, this is the thing Jacob was already blessed by culture's way of blessing. He had wives, he had concubines, he had children, he had livestock, he had all of that. And he said to the angel, I will not let you go until you bless me. So maybe, just maybe, there's another blessing that doesn't fit in a car. There's another blessing that doesn't fit in a house that you need to get before you leave this earth. That's where I am. I am.
Wow. What the way you just described, Jacob, makes me want to um, affirm everyone who feels restless that way. You can have all the trappings of fulfillment and be unfulfilled. And it's that restlessness that compels you to win anyway. Like something is not done, something is not finished. There's plenty I have around me, but something's missing in me. And I really, really love that sensitivity that you have developed. I want to tell you, there is one line in this book that I think is the most important line. Yeah, I think it's the most important line in the book. And it's on page 59, and you just referenced it in another set of words, but the line is this: winning isn't a win until you win for someone else. That's it. That's it. That's the secret sauce. That's the end. If you're not winning for someone else, you are misliving. Misliving. It's off. So I love that Zanai provoked that. And I love that you described Zanai as coming into the world screaming. Screaming. I have, as I said, 2 adult children and enough experience to know that sometimes God sends your children to tell you something about yourself. And in this case, God comes into the world for Shaun screaming. Like, if God is screaming, then he's been trying to tell you something for a while, right? And there are times when we just don't hear unless someone screams it. And the only other screaming that happens in your book is when you scream out to Zanai because a car is about to hit her, but you can't physically move to rescue her. You say, stop. You don't just say it. You scream, stop, Zanai. What is God screaming at us? What is God? Not because he's angry. I think we have an image of God who might scream because he's angry. No, what is love motivating God to scream at us? And what are the variety of ways in which he shows up screaming? He shows up in Zanai screaming, not just as a sign of her aliveness in that moment, but screaming what you will not come to understand until much later is God's promise to protect you. You heard it in the car, but he said it at her birth. He screamed it at her birth. And I had to pause and ask myself, God, what are you screaming at me? What are you screaming at me? I gotta slow down. I gotta listen more attentively. Because you shouldn't have to scream at me. You shouldn't have to, but I'm grateful that you do. Because you don't want to take a chance that I might not hear you. So if I don't get it today, God, keep screaming, please, until I get it. I love that Zanai came screaming. I also just appreciate so much your, and this, I'm sure this is ministering to somebody, your will to show respect and love and gratitude for the woman you couldn't stay married to. You know, Pam and I both know and grew to love and still love Anna. And both of us would check you if you tried it. But I'm so grateful that you have not let, nor has she let any bitterness poison you. Because that poison would affect everything about you. And I think people, and I know it's not an easy thing, but when you're poisoned with bitterness, it seeps into every aspect of your life, and you become less likable to the people who love you most. Not just the one who you're mad at. You said something earlier which I thought was just, wow, really revelatory. And I can't even remember the context of the story, but you said these words. You said, I needed time for my brain to heal. I needed time for my heart to heal. I think most people who are listening here can appreciate that in difficult times, in times of amputation, facing divorce or some similar breaking of the heart and spirit, I think people can appreciate what it means to require time for the heart to heal. But we don't ever talk about our brain healing. Like, what if our brain needs to rest? I guess that's what I think you said. My brain needs some time to rest, because what we are experiencing, what we just learned from him or her, what we just uncovered, has blown a gasket in my brain. It's not logical. And so you're asking me to be reconciled to something I can't even wrap my mind around. My brain, it's illogical. How could I have not seen? How could I have not done? How could he do? How could she do? Like, it's enough to blow a fuse. And we spend all of our time, our energy, trying to figure it out. But somebody needs to hear this. Give your brain time to rest. You're not going to figure it out tonight. You're smart. Yes, you are. But your brain needs to rest. Some of us have our brains operating at 95, 100 miles an hour all day, every day, trying to figure out what can't be figured out. And so I want your heart to heal, but I also want your brain to rest. Because when your brain doesn't rest, you make missteps and mistakes elsewhere. And I don't want that for you. You can win anyway. You can rest your brain and win anyway. I promise you. I promise you. Rest your brain and win Anyway, now I know you're used to being engaged with Shaun, who is always causing your brain to just sparks. Bam, bam, revelation here, revelation there, illumination. But rest your brain. It's Shaun's always going to record. So when your brain is rested, come back to the revelation. But tonight, let your brain we all need our brain give our brains a chance to rest the way we need our bodies to rest. um some people don't think at all. I get that. But then there are some people who think too much, too long, too hard, overthink. Take it from someone who knows. I'm an overthinker. And it makes sense because I get paid to think on some level. But I can also overthink a thing to the point where I handicap myself because I imagine I've got to know before I can move. Sometimes you move into knowing. But yeah, I appreciate, and I appreciate so much your honesty about evolving. I just don't think, maybe it's me, but I don't know that we give each other enough grace to evolve. Nor do, and especially give ourselves enough grace to evolve. But I'm so much happier with myself having evolved, because usually evolving and evolution means that you come closer to being who you were designed to be in the first place. Something more honest, something more genuine. And it's liberating. It's liberating when you're no longer performing for others, and when you're learning how to be your best self, when you give up on conforming and decide, no, I'm gonna be unique. I think that is, freeing, and there's so much about this book that you have encouraged us toward in precisely that way. That on behalf of a lot of people across the country, if not across the world, want to thank you for encouraging us to win anyway. I know that you are really keen on encouraging others to also write their books, their chronicles. I wonder if you would go there again and sort of encourage people or explain why it's important for people to have the kind of opportunity that book writing presents. And who can write a book? Like, anybody can write a book? Like, talk to me.
The definition of posterity um, is leaving something for your grandkids, for your future generations. And I think in modern times, especially in the West, we see posterity as leaving an inheritance that's in a bank account. We leave houses for our children or our grandchildren. We leave cars. But those things can pass away. What are you leaving as a roadmap so that they don't have to work as hard as you. If we are words out of the mouth of God, if my life was a word, how will people know that word unless I write it down? How will people know what I'm here to do unless I communicate it? Now that we have technology, everybody can write, because if you are not a writer, then you can transcribe or you can orate. And then there are teams of people that can help you to put your ideas on paper. But those ideas, they came from experiences, and those experiences are too expensive for you to just leave that for people that don't know your heart. You have gone through so much, and I know that it's only a testimony when we heal and when we write. And I think that it's my life's purpose to inspire that person that has a story, that has something that needs to be brought up. And there are autobiographical stories, there are fictional stories, but you may be a poet, you may be a historian, you may be an entrepreneur, and your brain looks at SOPs and manuals. You need to write that stuff down. You don't even know. Maybe God has blocked the revenue from your life because it's in your hands. Maybe the well is within you. It's not going to come from somewhere else. It's coming from within you. There are master classes. There are agencies. There are Fortune 500 companies that need your brain to do what they do. The price is the price. And I need you to accelerate your price. I need you to find what we're saying and target it to you. You are afraid of heights. This is not the enemy. This is you. This is not procrastination. This is you. This is not your work schedule. This is you. And if you're hearing this, God raised me up from two strokes to let you know that if I'm still here, then I got purpose. And if you are hearing me, then you got purpose. And it's my call. I know that there are people listening to me that have a story to tell, that have a manual to produce, that have a master class in them, that have an autobiography, that have fictional works, that have poetry. All of those you need to leave in the earth as posterity for your future generations. And I have the perfect company that'll help you do it. So if you don't know where to begin, call us. You can go to my website. All of my stuff is on there, and we will help you the way my team helped me when I was recovering from a stroke. Yeah.
Well, we're glad that that you're still here. We're glad that you are determined for Godchild Publications to win anyway, and glad that you're still as generous and as available with your time and talents as you have ever been. Um, I think we're coming close to the top of the hour. I want to ask you about two people. And I was actually thinking, I really just want to know how they're doing. Um, because these two people, in the last 2 or 3 years, have also suffered unspeakable loss. And I want to know how they're doing. But I want to ask it this way, maybe a little creatively. If your mother and your grandmother were to decide tomorrow to each write a book, what title do you think each one might choose? Can you suggest a title based on how they're doing or how they've managed these last couple of years? And for those of your followers who don't know, maybe you'll say a little bit about what they've endured the last 2 or 3 years.
They are well. My grandmother is in Valdosta, Georgia. I'm going to pick her up in a week and a half, um, so that she can come up to be the cook at my mom's daycare. um, and my mom's in the other room, like she is in my house watching this interview probably. Um, she wanted to stay until it was over. Um, I know the book that she told me she's supposed to write. It was like eons of years ago, but I don't know if that's going to happen. But I think my mom's word is love. And I think if I were to have a conversation with her, I think that her title would be love, and then there would be different subtitles, or every single chapter would be love gives, love shares, love hugs, love grieves, love's always there, love is constant. Um, because whether it's raining or it's sunny, her love has been the constant version of God that I know most. Her love has shielded me, her love has protected me, her love has, it's like her love is so present that I almost forget it's there, because it's always loving. She lost her husband at the top of the pandemic, 2 months before I had my first stroke. And then my grandmother lost my grandfather last year, or the year before that. Um, and I was in the house when he transitioned. And he was just walking that morning. She was fixing him lunch, and he went and laid down, and that was it. Um, and so they have been pillars for me in my recovery while they are still grieving. We have been pillars for each other. They are the strongest women that I know. Strongest women that I know. And my grandmother would write a book on prayer. I know that. Now, she is the best cook that I have ever experienced. And I wish that she would write a cookbook so that we could have those recipes. But I know her prayers saved my whole family, point blank, period. My grandfather was a blood in the worst sense of the word. He was in the streets, he was selling cocaine, he was that guy. And she prayed for him. I mean, not one prayer, I mean, years of prayer. And her prayers literally saved his life. And those prayers sent my family on a whole trajectory. And all of us are in the church just because of her prayers. So I don't know a title, but I know it would be about prayer.
Well, please tell them both that I asked for them. Part of the reason I asked the question that way is because I love titles. I love good titles. Whenever I write something, sometimes I have a title before I have an essay or an article. But the most fun one of the most gratifying things is to come up with a really attractive title. So tell your mother I will be looking for the book titled "What Love Does" in the next whenever, right? Whenever she gets to it. I think that's a close, based on what you described. Maybe "What Love Does" is the title, and your grandmother's book should probably be called "Eat, Pray, Cook." Um, that that way she can get her prayer part in, and you can get your cookbook in the same in the same volume. So this has been fun, Shaun. I'm gonna turn things back over to you. I mean, they were really in your hands in the first place, but I thank you for letting me talk to you about this tremendous achievement, one of many, and for reconnecting with you virtually before a public, and for the ongoing trust that we have built, mutual trust that we have built. I am wishing nothing but the very best things for you, for your family. Zanai, who's got it, and for your publication company and whatever the next stage is. I just love that you're not. I love that you haven't stopped, because you got reasons why anybody would understand if you did, which just tells me that you're unstoppable. Keep being that.
This has been rich. This has been rich. Um, I cried. I laughed. I've known Maurice now for 20 years, and you have had these few minutes with the smartest man that I know. He is a sage. His daughter's name is Sage. He is a sage in his own right. He is an intellectual, but he's a pastor's pastor. Everyone needs to have a Maurice in their phone. Um, he has seen me at my worst, and he still loves me. He's seen me at my best, and he's there to cheer me on. Um, and I think that's the love of God. Um, I am going to rest, as he said, but in the morning, I'm going to watch this again. This is on my agenda. My daughter's here with me, so we're gonna have to work out. We're gonna have to pray, but I'm gonna have to watch this again because there were too many nuggets, and I know that this was not an interview. This was time with God, and we were just his tennis partners. So don't keep this to yourself. Please share it with whoever you have influence with. Share it on your pages, share it on your social media platforms. I'm just grateful that God loves me enough to send a Maurice my way. And he's a lifelong friend, he's a lifelong mentor, he's a lifelong professor for me, he's a lifelong pastor. And so until next time, y'all, win anyway. I love you.